Your mind is a remarkable tool. It has the power to create, to inspire, and to drive us toward extraordinary achievements. But if we're not careful, it can also become our greatest enemy, leading us down paths of doubt, fear, and frustration. The mind, when uncontrolled, has the potential to wreak havoc on our lives, and it often does so without us even realizing it. How often do we let our thoughts run wild, allowing them to dictate our moods, our decisions, our entire day? We wake up in the morning, and before we even step out of bed, our minds are already racing. We're thinking about everything that needs to be done, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet, or replaying conversations from yesterday that didn't go as planned, without even knowing it. Our minds have taken control, steering us through our day based on fear, anxiety, and endless what-ifs. Who's in control of your life? You or your mind? This is not just a rhetorical question. It's one that demands deep reflection because the answer determines the quality of your life. If your mind is in control, then you are at the mercy of every thought, every whim, every fleeting emotion. But if you are in control, then your mind becomes a powerful ally, a tool that can help you create the life you want rather than a prison that holds you back. How many times have you let a single negative thought ruin your entire day? Maybe you received a piece of bad news or someone made an offhand comment and suddenly your whole mood shifted. Instead of moving forward, you found yourself stuck, replaying that moment over and over in your mind, each time feeling worse than the last. And what happened as a result? You missed out on opportunities. You failed to enjoy the present, and your day slipped away, dominated by a thought that you allowed to take control. The truth is, our minds can be both our greatest gift and our greatest obstacle. When we allow our thoughts to go unchecked, we give away our power. We let our minds decide how we feel, how we act, and ultimately, how we live. But the good news is that we have the ability to take back control. We don't have to be slaves to our thoughts. We can learn to master them, and when we do, everything changes. Imagine a life where you wake up in the morning and decide how you're going to feel that day, where you face challenges with a clear mind and a steady heart, unshaken by fear or doubt, where you can let go of past mistakes and move forward with confidence and peace. This is not some unattainable dream. It's a reality that is within your grasp. It starts with recognizing the power of your mind and understanding that just as you can control your actions, you can also control your thoughts. But this is not always easy, is it? Our minds are tricky. They're like wild horses running off in every direction, pulling us along for the ride. They're filled with thoughts, most of them repetitive, many of them negative, and if we don't take the reins, we end up in places we never intended to go. Yet, as challenging as it may seem, the process of mastering your mind begins with a simple decision, the decision to be in charge. So let me ask you again, and this time, really think about it. Who is in control of your life? You or your mind? Are you living each day guided by your own choices? Or are you being led by thoughts that you haven't even questioned? This question is not just the key to understanding your current situation. It's the key to unlocking a future that is truly yours. When we take control of our minds, we take control of our lives. We begin to see the world not as something that happens to us, but as something we have the power to shape. We start to realize that the only thing standing between us and our best life is the thoughts we allow to dominate our minds. So I encourage you today and every day to take that first step toward mastery. Choose to be the one in control and watch as your life transforms in ways you never thought possible. Now that we've touched on the importance of controlling the mind, let's take a closer look at how the mind operates. It's essential to understand this if we're going to master it. Our minds are truly fascinating, aren't they? They're constantly active, always thinking, always processing. But here's the thing. The mind has a tendency to dwell in places that don't serve us well. It often gets stuck in the past or projects itself into the future, rarely staying in the present moment where life is actually happening. Think about it. How much of your time is spent replaying old memories, whether it's reliving past glories or nursing old wounds? And when you're not stuck in the past, how often are you worrying about the future? How many nights have you spent lying awake, thinking about what might happen tomorrow? next week, or even years from now. This is the nature of the mind. It loves to dwell on what was or what could be, but it often forgets about what is. Have you ever stopped to consider how much of your day is spent lost in thought? Truly think about this. How often do you find yourself daydreaming, ruminating, or worrying? And when you do, where does your mind take you? For many of us, our minds take us to places of regret, fear, or stress. And here's the kicker. Most of what we worry about never actually happens. We're caught up in a loop, reliving the past or anticipating the future, while the present, the only moment we actually have, slips through our fingers. So, what's the impact of this uncontrolled thinking? Let's break it down. When your mind is constantly pulling you into the past or pushing you into the future, you miss out on the present, and the present is where life happens. It's where joy, peace, and fulfillment exist. But if you're always somewhere else in your mind, you're never truly experiencing life as it is. Instead, you're stuck in a mental fog, disconnected from reality, and this can lead to stress, anxiety, and a general sense of unease. And this mental wandering doesn't just rob you of your happiness. It also creates stress. When you're constantly dwelling on the past, you're often reliving painful memories, which can bring up feelings of regret, guilt, or sadness. And when your mind is constantly projecting into the future, you're likely to encounter anxiety because the future is uncertain and our minds are wired to worry about what we can't control. This cycle of uncontrolled thinking can trap us in a state of chronic stress, which is harmful not just to our mental well-being, but to our physical health as well. The mind is a tool. It's meant to serve us, not dominate us. It's there to help us navigate the world, to solve problems, to create, to imagine. But when we let it run wild, it becomes a problem in itself. Instead of being the master of our minds, we become their slaves, pulled in every direction by our thoughts. So how do we break free from this cycle? The first step is awareness. You have to become aware of your thoughts to notice when your mind starts to drift. It's about catching yourself in the act of worrying or daydreaming and gently bringing your focus back to the present. It's not about suppressing your thoughts or trying to control every single one. That's impossible, and it would drive you mad. Instead, it's about recognizing that you have a choice. You can choose to engage with your thoughts, or you can choose to let them pass by like clouds in the sky. Imagine what your life could be like if you spent less time lost in thought and more time fully engaged in the present moment. Imagine the peace that would come from letting go of past regrets and future worries. Imagine the joy of truly experiencing life as it happens, without the constant interference of a mind that's always elsewhere. This is not just wishful thinking, it's entirely within your reach. But it starts with understanding the nature of your mind and realizing that while it's a powerful tool, it's you who holds the power to decide how it's used. Let's take a moment to consider something truly profound. The role of our minds in shaping our reality. This is not just a philosophical idea. It's a fundamental truth about how we experience life. Our thoughts are powerful. They create our perceptions, and those perceptions, in turn, shape the reality we live in every single day. Side two people are looking at the same situation. One sees a problem, something to worry about, something that brings stress and anxiety. The other sees an opportunity, a challenge to overcome, something that sparks excitement and motivation. The situation is the same, but the reality each person experiences is vastly different. Why? Because their thoughts, the lens through which they view the world, our minds act like filters, coloring everything we encounter. If you believe the world is full of threats, you'll see danger everywhere. If you believe it's full of possibilities, you'll find opportunities in places others overlook. Your thoughts create your perceptions, and those perceptions shape your reality. But here's something that might surprise you. So many of us believe we are in control of our lives, but in reality, we're being controlled by our thoughts. We think we're making decisions, but often it's our habitual thoughts that are running the show. These thoughts have been with us for so long, we don't even question them. We just accept them as truth, as the way things are. What if your reality isn't what you think it is, but rather what your mind decides it to be? This is a crucial question. because it challenges us to reconsider everything we take for granted. If our thoughts are shaping our reality, then by changing our thoughts, we can change the world we live in. This is not some abstract idea. It's a powerful tool that's within your grasp. Think about the last time you faced a challenge. Did your thoughts help you overcome it, or did they hold you back? Did you approach the situation with confidence and clarity, or were you filled with doubt and fear? The way you thought about that challenge influenced how you dealt with it, and ultimately, it shaped the outcome. There are countless examples of people who have transformed their lives simply by changing their thought patterns. Take, for instance, someone who once saw themselves as a failure, someone who believed they were doomed to repeat the same mistakes over and over. Their thoughts were filled with negativity, self-doubt, and fear. As a result, their reality reflected those thoughts. They struggled, they missed opportunities, and they couldn't seem to break free from their past. But then something changed. They began to challenge those thoughts. Instead of accepting them as truth, they started to question them. They replaced the negative, limiting beliefs with positive, empowering ones. Instead of thinking, I can't do this, they began to think, I can learn this. Instead of focusing on what could go wrong, they started to imagine what could go right. And as their thoughts changed, so did their reality. They found themselves succeeding in areas where they had once failed. They discovered strengths they didn't know they had. Their world, which had once seemed so small and full of obstacles, began to open up. This is the power of the mind's influence on reality. When we change our thoughts, we change our world. It's as if we've been looking at life through a fogged up window, and by shifting our thinking, we start to wipe that window clean. Suddenly, we see things we couldn't see before. We see possibilities, solutions, paths forward that were hidden by our old ways of thinking. But let's be clear about something. This isn't about wishful thinking or pretending everything is perfect. It's about recognizing that our thoughts are powerful and they're always working to shape our reality, whether we're aware of it or not. By becoming aware, by consciously choosing our thoughts, we take back control. We begin to shape our reality intentionally, rather than being shaped by old patterns and habits. I want you to think about your own life for a moment. What kind of reality are you creating with your thoughts? Are your thoughts lifting you up, or are they holding you back? Are they filled with fear, doubt, and limitation, or are they focused on possibilities, growth, and abundance? This is not about blame. It's about empowerment. If your reality isn't what you want it to be, you have the power to change it by changing your thoughts. You see, the mind is incredibly powerful, but it's also malleable. It can be shaped, directed, and trained to see the world in a way that serves you rather than hinders you. The first step is awareness, becoming conscious of the thoughts that are running through your mind on a daily basis. The next step is choice, deciding which thoughts to keep and which ones to let go of. And finally, there's practice, continuing to choose thoughts that create the reality you want day after day. As you begin this process, you'll find that your perception of reality starts to shift. What once seemed like a daunting challenge may now appear as an exciting opportunity. What once filled you with dread may now inspire you with possibility. This is not magic. It's the natural result of aligning your thoughts with the reality you want to create. What if your reality isn't what you think it is, but rather what your mind decides it to be? The answer to this question holds the key to your future. By taking control of your thoughts, you take control of your reality. And when you do, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Let's take a moment to consider the consequences of letting our minds run unchecked. We've already talked about how powerful the mind is in shaping our reality, but what happens when we lose control of that power? What happens when we allow our thoughts to go wherever they please, without any direction or discipline? The answer is simple, yet profound. Our minds can become our own worst enemies. When the mind is left to its own devices, it tends to focus on what's wrong rather than what's right. It gravitates towards fear, doubt, and negativity. This isn't because our minds are inherently negative, but because they are wired to protect us from this. Unfortunately, in our modern world, this protective instinct often works against us, leading us into a cycle of stress and anxiety rather than keeping us. Let's think about the impact of this. When our minds are filled with negative thoughts, it affects every aspect of our lives. It's like putting on a pair of dark glasses. Everything we see is tainted by that negativity. We start to see problems where none exist, and the smallest setbacks feel like insurmountable obstacles. Over time, this can lead to serious mental health issues like depression and chronic anxiety. But it doesn't stop there. Our relationships suffer too. When we're constantly focused on the negative, we're more likely to misinterpret others' actions, to assume the worst, and to react in ways that push people away. This is a common experience, isn't it? And it's a powerful reminder of just how much influence our minds have over our emotions and actions. One negative thought can spiral out of control, leading to a cascade of negative emotions, poor decisions, and missed opportunities for happiness. And if we're not careful, this can become our default state. A mind that's constantly focused on the negative, always expecting the worst, and never allowing us to fully enjoy the present. The problem is that this constant focus on the negative creates a self-perpetuating cycle. The more we focus on negative thoughts, the more negative our reality becomes. We start to see the world through a lens of fear and doubt, and we act accordingly. This, in turn, brings more negativity into our lives, which reinforces our negative thoughts, and the cycle continues. It's a downward spiral that can be incredibly difficult to escape from. But here's the good news. We can break this cycle. It starts with recognizing that our thoughts are not facts. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. You have the power to challenge your thoughts, to question them, and to replace them with more positive, constructive ones. It's not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to focus on what's within your control, on what's going right, rather than what's going wrong. Another powerful tool is gratitude. When we focus on what we're grateful for, we shift our attention away from what's wrong and towards what's right. Gratitude has a way of breaking through the fog of negativity, reminding us that even in the midst of challenges, there's always something to be thankful for. It's a way of rewiring our brains to see the good rather than the bad, and to create a more positive, fulfilling reality. How many times have you let a single negative thought ruin your entire day? And more importantly, how many more days are you willing to let slip away like that? The choice is yours. You can continue to let your mind run unchecked, to let negative thoughts dominate your life, or you can take back control. You can choose to focus on the positive, to challenge your negative thoughts, and to create a reality that reflects the life you truly want to live. Let's talk about something truly transformative, by taking back control of your mind. You see, the mind left to its own devices can often become a source of chaos, filled with worries, doubts, and endless distractions. But the good news is that we don't have to live this way. We have the power to master our minds, to quiet the noise, and to find a sense of peace and clarity that can change our entire experience of life. One of the most effective tools for gaining control over the mind is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness is a term that gets thrown around a lot these days, but at its core, it's about being fully present in the moment. It's about paying attention to what's happening right now without getting caught up in thoughts about the past or worries about the future. When we practice mindfulness, we create a space between ourselves and our thoughts, a space where we can observe them without getting swept away by them. Think of mindfulness as a pause button for your mind. And when you find yourself caught up in a spiral of negative thoughts, mindfulness allows you to step back and say, wait a minute. I don't have to go down this road. It gives you the power to choose how you respond to your thoughts rather than being at their mercy. This simple act of being present can bring an incredible sense of peace. Instead of living in a state of constant mental chatter, you begin to experience moments of stillness where you can just be. But how do we cultivate mindfulness? It starts with the practice of self-awareness. You can't change what you're not aware of. So the first step in mastering your mind is becoming aware of your thoughts. Start by paying attention to what's going on in your mind throughout the day. Notice when your thoughts start to drift toward negativity or when you're getting caught up in worries about the future. Don't judge these thoughts. Just observe them. The goal is not to control every thought, because that's impossible. but to become more conscious of where your mind tends to go. As you develop this awareness, you'll begin to notice patterns. You might realize that your mind often goes to the same negative places, or that certain situations trigger a flood of anxious thoughts. This awareness is powerful because it allows you to start taking control. Once you're aware of a negative thought pattern, you can choose to interrupt it before it takes over. And this is where practical techniques come into play. One of the most effective techniques for gaining control over your mind is deep breathing. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful. When you focus on your breath, you anchor yourself in the present moment. The next time you feel your thoughts spiraling out of control, try this. Close your eyes, take a deep breath in through your nose, hold it for a moment, and then slowly exhale through your mouth. As you breathe out, imagine all the tension and negativity leaving your body. Repeat this a few times, and you'll notice a shift in your state of mind. Deep breathing not only calms the mind, but also relaxes the body, creating a sense of inner peace. Another powerful tool is the use of positive affirmations. Our minds are constantly talking to us, and much of what they say isn't very kind. We all have that inner critic that tells us we're not good enough, that we can't do something, that we're going. But here's the thing, is the mind can be trained to focus on the negative. It can also be trained to focus on the positive. Positive affirmations are a way of rewiring your brain to think more constructively. Start by identifying the negative thoughts that are most common in your mind. I mean, it's thoughts like, I'm not capable, or I'm going to mess this up. Now, create a positive affirmation that directly counters that thought. For example, if your mind often tells you, I'm not capable, your affirmation could be, I am capable and strong. If your mind says, I'm going to mess this up, your affirmation could be, I am prepared and confident. The key is to repeat these affirmations regularly, especially when you catch yourself thinking negatively. Over time, these positive statements will start to replace the negative ones, and you'll find that your mind begins to naturally lean toward more constructive thoughts. This kind of peace isn't just a fantasy, something you can achieve. It doesn't mean you'll never have a negative thought again, but it does mean that those thoughts won't control you. You'll be able to see them for what they are. Just thoughts, not facts, and you'll have the tools to let them go. This is the power of a controlled mind, a mind that serves you rather than one that controls you. And it's within your reach. It starts with mindfulness, with becoming aware of your thoughts and learning to observe them without judgment. It continues with practical techniques like deep breathing, positive affirmations, and thought stopping. Tools that help you take control when your mind starts to wander into negative territory. Remember, you have the power to control your mind. And in doing so, you have the power to control your life. The mind is a tool, a powerful one, but it's up to you how you use it. Use it to create a life that's filled with peace, clarity, and fulfillment. And know that with each step you take, you're moving closer to the life you've always wanted, one thought at a time. Let's talk about something that has the power to completely transform your life. Reprogramming your mind. You see, the way you think shapes everything you experience. It determines how you see the world, how you interact with others, and how you handle challenges. But here's the catch. Many of us are living with mental scripts that don't serve us. These scripts are filled with doubt, fear, and negativity, and they've been running in the background for so long that we don't even question them. But what if I told you that you have the power to change these scripts? That you can train your mind to think positively and constructively no matter what life throws at you. This is what reprogramming the mind is all about. It's about taking control of your thoughts and rewriting the story that's playing out in your head. But how do we do this? How do we reprogram our minds to think in ways that serve us? The first step is to become aware of the negative patterns that have taken root in our thinking. This means paying attention to the thoughts that come up repeatedly, especially in challenging situations. What do you tell yourself when things don't go as planned? Do you immediately jump to self-criticism or fear? Or do you take a step back and look for the lesson, the opportunity to grow? Once you've identified these negative thought patterns, the next step is to replace them with positive ones. This isn't about ignoring reality or pretending that everything is perfect. It's about choosing to focus on thoughts that are constructive, thoughts that empower you rather than diminish you. For example, instead of thinking, I always mess things up, you might tell yourself, I'm learning and growing with each experience. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you could replace it with, I'm capable and worthy of success. This process takes time and it requires practice. But with each new positive thought you introduce, you're laying down new neural pathways in your brain. Over time, these new pathways become stronger and the old negative patterns begin to weaken. It's like carving out a new path in the forest. At first, it's rough and difficult to navigate, but the more you walk it, the clearer and easier it becomes. One of those powerful tools you can use in this process is visualization. Visualization is more than just daydreaming. It's a deliberate practice of imagining your desired outcomes as if they are already real. When you visualize something with clarity and emotion, your mind starts to believe it's possible. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's a way to align your mind with your goals, making them more achievable. You're standing at the edge of a vast landscape, and in the distance, you can see the life you want to live. Maybe it's a life filled with success, happiness, and peace. Maybe it's a life where you've overcome the challenges that once held you back. Visualization allows you to see that life clearly in your mind, to feel it as if it's already happening. And when you do this regularly, you're training your mind to move towards that reality. If you could rewrite the script of your mind, what would the new story be? Think about it for a moment. What would you tell yourself every day if you knew that your thoughts had the power to shape your reality? What kind of life would you create if your mind was filled with thoughts of possibility, strengths, and love? The beautiful thing is, you don't have to wait for circumstances to change to start living that story. You can begin right now by choosing the thoughts that align with the life you want to create. This is your mind, and you are the author of its story. Every time you choose a positive thought over a negative one, you're writing a new chapter in your life. Every time you visualize your goals and feel them as if they're already real, you're bringing that story to life. So I encourage you to take this to heart. Start paying attention to the scripts that are playing out in your mind. Identify the ones that don't serve you and start replacing them with ones that do. Use visualization to reinforce these new scripts and watch as your reality begins to shift. It won't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, you'll start to see changes. You start to feel more confident, more capable, and more aligned with the life you want to live. Remember, the mind is incredibly powerful, but it's up to you to direct that power in a way that serves you. Reprogramming your mind is not just about thinking positively, it's about taking control of your thoughts and using them to create the life you truly desire. And the best part, you can start right now. The pen is in your hand and the story of your life is yours to write. When you take control of your mind, something truly remarkable happens. You start to experience life in a way that feels richer, fuller, and more meaningful. Imagine waking up each day with a sense of calm, knowing that no matter what comes your way, you have the tools to handle it with grace and clarity. This is one of the greatest benefits of mastering your mind. Improved mental health. You're no longer a prisoner of your thoughts, constantly reacting to every worry, fear, or doubt. Instead, you're the one in control, choosing how to think, feel, and respond to the world around you. But the benefits don't stop there. When your mind is under control, your relationships naturally improve. Think about it. When you're not overwhelmed by stress or anxiety, you're able to be fully present with the people you care about. You listen more, you understand better, and you respond with kindness and patience. Your interactions become more meaningful, and the bonds you share with others grow stronger. And let's not forget about success. A controlled mind is a focused mind, and focus is key to achieving your goals. When you're not distracted by negative thoughts or unnecessary worries, you can direct your energy toward what truly you become more productive, more creative, and more resilient in the face of challenges. Success, in whatever form it takes for you, becomes not just a possibility, but the impact of a controlled mind doesn't end with you. It extends to those around you. When you master your mind, you create a ripple effect that touches everyone in your life. Your calmness in stressful situations sets an example for others to follow. Your positivity becomes contagious, inspiring those around you to think more constructively as well. You start to uplift others simply by being who you are, because your presence brings peace and clarity into their lives. What kind of impact could you have if you were truly in control of your mind? This is not just a theoretical question. It's one that has real, tangible answers. Think about the people who have changed the world, not through brute force, but through the sheer power of their minds. Leaders like Gandhi, who transformed an entire nation with his unwavering focus on peace. Visionaries like Martin Luther King Jr., whose dream of equality inspired millions and continues to do so. These are people who mastered their minds, who chose their thoughts carefully, and who used the power of their minds to create a better world. You don't have to be a world leader to have an impact. By mastering your mind, you can make a difference in your own way, in your own corner of the world, whether it's raising a family, building a career, or simply being a source of positivity in your community. The impact of a controlled mind is profound. Now, I leave you with one final question. So are you ready to take control of your mind, or will you let it continue to control you? This is the question that only you can answer. But remember this, every moment of every day, you have the power to choose you have the power to decide how you want to live your life. You don't need to wait for the perfect moment to start. The perfect moment is now. Start small with one thought, one breath, one choice. Over time, these small steps will add up to something much bigger, a life that reflects your true potential, a life that you've consciously created. Believe in your ability to do this. Believe that you have the power to master your mind, and in doing so, master your life. The path to mastery is not always easy, but it is always worth it. And the best part, it's a path that is open to everyone, regardless of where you start. So as you leave here today, take with you the knowledge that you're in control. Your mind is a powerful tool, and with practice, patience, and persistence, you can use it to create the life you've always wanted. Question is, will you? The choice is yours.